what happens every single time I sit down to do something at the table. Hi, Ava Jane. So I just came in here to start working on green beans and purple beans. I'm going to be freezing these to cook later on for meals and everything. And so I thought I would just take you through the process. It's really, really easy, but if you never have frozen beans or some other vegetable, you may not know exactly how to go about doing it. Now, I went through and I picked all these beans this morning. There's about a gallon or so of them here. But some of the beans are not any good. Like this is one that I missed last time I picked, and so it's way too big. It's stringy and hard, and so that just kind of gets tossed into my trash bowl. But when you are freezing beans, ideally what you want to do is break them into the size that you would have them in when you're cooking them anyways. And so I'm breaking off the ends, discarding those, and then breaking them into about 1.5 inch to 2 inch pieces. And Ava, seriously, as I went through here, I picked both different kinds of beans that we have growing out there. The purple podpole beans and the NT half runners. And then I've got 2 bowls so that I can kind of sort them as I go. And I'm looking for any damaged spots. Okay, no, not up on the table. Get back. And breaking off any damaged spots as I go. And discarding these giant beasts of beans, again, that I missed last time. Although a really big one like this that is fully developed, you could open this up, let the beans dry, and save these to plant next year. So I am going to continue to work on trimming up and cleaning the beans and snapping them with my assistant here. And I'll join you again in a little bit. Alright, so I have trimmed and snapped all of my beans, and now the next step is going to be blanching. So I have a pot of boiling water here. Blanching is basically a very short, hot boiling that you do to vegetables, sometimes fruits, for a number of different reasons. And pardon the dogs, they're barking. Mr. Smith just pulled in the driveway. The reason you would blanch your green beans or other vegetables prior to freezing them is to preserve the color depending on the bean. Now these purple beans are going to turn green when you blanch them because the anthomycins that are in here do not hold up to heat. Anything that has this purple color to it, like red cabbage or red onions, they always lose that beautiful purple color once they're cooked. So these will turn green. However, the green beans will stay nice and bright green. So preserving the color, it also helps lock in the flavor of the things that you're freezing, as well as the nutritional value. And then another reason that you would blanch your vegetables would be to remove any residue that might be on them. Now I always wash my beans and other things prior to freezing them. But if there's any pesticide residue or maybe bacteria on here, blanching can help get some of that off of there. But again, I always wash prior to doing this anyways. So I'm just going to dump my beans into the boiling water for 3 minutes. Now this is only, again, doing a very brief cooking at boiling temperatures. And I don't want my beans to get mushy because they are going to get frozen. So over here I have a bowl of ice water. So as soon as these have cooked for 3 minutes, I'm going to, now normally Normally I would dump this into a colander, but because I have 2 batches of beans that I need to blanch, I'm just going to scoop these all out and then put them in the ice water, and then I can go ahead and use my boiling water once again to do the green beans, since I've got 2 separate batches. Alright, so now I'm going to quickly scoop all these out, plunge them into the ice water, and what that does is it stops the cooking process so that your beans don't get overcooked and mushy. And you can see here how those beautiful purple beans are now bright green. And what's actually really funny, and actually let me turn this water down for just a second. Let that calm down so you can see this. I put purple beans into the pot of water, and look what it did to the water. It turned the water bright green. It almost looks like there's food coloring in there. Alright, so I turn the stove eye back on to get that back to a nice rolling boil, and then I will go ahead and blanch my green beans, the empty half runners from this morning. And in the meantime, I can go ahead and scoop out these green beans that were once purple and let them start draining in the colander. Alright, so the next thing I get asked about when it comes to freezing foods is, what do I freeze them in? Now, you have a couple of different options. You can, of course, vacuum seal them if you want. I tend to use frozen fruits and vegetables fairly quickly, and so I just put them in freezer containers. Now, I do have some containers. I have several of these. I bought these in a big bulk pack. They're called Ready-tainers, and they're BPA free and all of that. They're a quart size container, and like I said, I bought a big bulk pack of these. But my favorite ones to use, and the reason I bought those Ready-tainers was because I couldn't get any of these at the time. My favorite ones are these. These are little containers made by Arrow. They come in all different sizes. This one here is a pint, and I've had ones all the way up to a gallon size container. And what I love about these is that they are square. When you're looking down at them, they're all square in shape, which means when you're putting them in your freezer, there's no dead space in between your containers, and so you can fit more in a smaller space, and you know freezer space is always prime real estate. Whereas when you're packing in round containers, you've always got some dead space in between them. So these pack better, they stack better, and like I said, they come in all different sizes. My mom used these when I was growing up. She probably still does. I have gotten these locally at my Tractor Supply, Farm Supply. I think I've seen them at Walmart's, and I know you can get them on Amazon. Like I said, they come in all different sizes, which is why I love them. And of course, they are BPA free and everything, and they're made in America. So these are the containers that I'm going to use today, and again, they come in all different sizes. When I freeze things like green beans, I like to freeze them in smaller portions, in portions that I would probably use them in. So 2 cups is a good serving size for me and Mr. Smith together. If I'm just making some green beans to go with dinner, a pint-sized container is perfect. So I've got my green beans here, the once purple ones that have been draining here in the colander, and quite frankly, all I'm gonna do is stack them in there, and I just kind of shake them so that they lay down in flat, and I can pack them in there nice and snugly. And I do it over the colander, so if I drop any, they just go right back into the colander. And put on the lid. And these Aero containers actually have a little spot right in the center where you just push, and it pops out all of the air, and it sucks the lid right down in there and holds it nice and tight. And then they do have a spot on here that if you wanted to, generally you would use a wax pencil, but you can write the date. It's got these little textured strips. You can write the date and the contents of what's in your container. And yeah, so that is how I do my green beans and just about everything else. Now, if I was freezing something where I needed to freeze a bunch of stuff, then I would use the quarts or the gallon-sized containers to do that. I do have two different varieties of beans here today, and so I don't really like to mix different varieties. That way I know which one I'm making, and I can know which one I like better. I mean, if I've got some odds and ends, just like a couple of one and a couple of another, then I might mix them together. But generally I like to do them, but generally I like to separate them by variety. Alright, so that is how you freeze green beans properly using the correct methods, and that's how you can save your harvest, especially if you don't have a ton of green beans. Green beans don't really keep fresh once you've picked them very long, and so if you don't have a ton of them coming in all at once that you would want to invest all that time and energy to do a batch of canning green beans, then freezing them is a great way to still preserve them, keep them in a good condition to use later on. So thanks for joining me here again in the Homestead Kitchen. My name is Constance from Cosmopolitan Cornbread. If you are new here to my channel, I generally do at least 3 videos a week on homesteading, home cooking, and back to basics, with currently weekly garden tours all through the garden season. I am also a blogger over at cosmopolitancornbread.com, where you can find hundreds of recipes and articles. And be sure to sign up for my free newsletter, which is linked down below. And you can stay up to date on everything that is happening on both the YouTube channel and the blog, as well as get timely recipes and articles in your inbox. So thanks for hanging out with me here in the kitchen. I'll talk to y'all next time.